Hello, everybody, and welcome to our 9th live show. Pretty crazy to think we're already at 9. We were off last week for the holiday. We had some guests in town. Robert Parker from The Dungeon was our first house guest here at the house, and so we decided to take the week off, enjoy the 4th of July holiday. I hope you did the same if you celebrate the 4th of July. If you just like weekends. We've got a great show today. We're talking about Black Widow. It's already making money. The question is, how much money is it going to make? And what's the storyline going to be around that money-making weekend, those pesky narratives? We're going to start breaking that through. It's a little bit of a preview to what we're probably going to be talking about on Charts on Monday. We also have the opinions of Stephen Dorff. Perhaps this will be a recurring series here on the show. But I'm not alone. I have joining me, as we're working out our microphones, sadly for me, in a different room, Mara, who will be helping out, and she keeps me on track is what she does, basically.
I can't wait to hear all about the opinions of Lamagra, the blood god.
Right? I mean, really, was this year complete without hearing from Stephen Dorff?
I never knew I needed to hear from him, but now that I have, I expect to hear from him on every pivotal cinematic issue.
Well, we're going to have the poetic waxings of Deacon Frost shortly. But before we do that, we have some stories for you. We also have a possible sequel to the Tomorrow War 2. We're going to talk about Zack Snyder's new movie. We're going to talk about Patty Jenkins and the future of streaming, a very confusing story about where you're going to be able to see Universal movies. Quentin Tarantino bought my favorite theater. There's a lot of stuff to talk about that we're going to get to, but also we're going to get to your questions. I'm going to put something here on the bottom. By the way, our engineer, Ben Goddard, who was on the show a couple weeks ago, is still part of the show, but today he is helping out with some Schmodown business, and Schmodown business takes precedence, always. So he is not joining us, but he will be back next week as we get into the show. But we're back to the basic setup, although I think we're slowly upgrading. Like, things are slowly looking a little better, I think. But ask your question, $15. You'll get your question right on the air in between stories as we go through the show. Mara is your lovely operator standing by to take your questions. She'll be asking the questions as well this week. And $5 if you just want to hang out until the end of the show and have your question asked then. Totally cool as well. You can donate $5 or more, and we'll ask your question at the end of the show during our fan question time. So that's the information there. Mara, I will check in with you shortly. Thank you for being lovely, as always.
I enjoy being that for you. Thank you.
But before we get to our first questions, let's talk about Black Widow. Black Widow is finally in theaters. This was the movie that was supposed to kick off summer 2020. That first weekend in May, Marvel slot. Black Widow is now open, and it is already, believe it or not, I know this is shocking, making money. It opened to $13.2 million in previews last night. That's actual money that we know right now. When we look at that comparatively with the rest of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, that is above Ant-Man and the Wasp. It's comparable to Thor Ragnarok and Spider-Man Homecoming, although the movie right now is not projected to open at that range. But there was just some numbers that came in I looked at right before we came on the air just now, that the movie has taken in it's going to take in projected about $40 million through today, which boosts it up to the upper range of where a lot of people were predicting. That moves it from right now. I mean, these are all projections. You don't know. There's no predicting behavior. But right now, if it behaves like we're used to these movies behaving, it's going to be opening north of that $80 to $90 million projection, maybe $85 to $90 million. If it continues to do well, it could even go more. We've seen this before. We've seen this before with Marvel movies. They're projected to open at a certain range, and then there's more enthusiasm than projected, and over the weekend, those estimates go up. Those estimates could also go down. If there's just a big surge on Friday and there's not as much Saturday or Sunday, we could see that. This is a very fluid thing. But the thing to ask is, as we go into Monday, and we're going to talk about this on Charts, what is the narrative around this movie going to be? Because there's the facts now, it seems, especially on the internet. There's the facts, and then there's the narrative. And a lot of times the facts are used to justify whatever narrative that you want. Looking at, if this, let's say it hits that $85 million range, right in the middle there, that's going to put it on par with Doctor Strange back in 2016. It will be probably the 6th or 7th lowest opening film of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But traditionally, in the MCU, solo movies don't open quite as high. We've seen that many different times. We also have to remember that this is not business as usual. Even sometimes I even get carried away and want it to be business as usual. But there are still some theaters here in the United States that are open but not at capacities. Many are, but there are a lot that are not. Canada, which is part of the domestic box office take, is largely closed or at severely restricted capacity, much more so than here in the United States. You also have the fact that this is open or this is available on Disney Premier Plus access. So there will be some people that would have gone to the theaters that are going to pay $30 to watch it at home. We're not going to know the impact of that. We may get those Samba TV reports, and those are helpful as a guidepost, but I don't yet know exactly how accurate they are as far as total viewership numbers. For one thing, they don't measure mobile devices. They only measure televisions. So there's a lot of question marks around that. So there's some things that we're never going to know. But when we talk about narrative and we talk about how this is going to be viewed, as with most people, most stories, sadly, whether they are objective or not, some stories I think are objectively true or not true. Some stories, there's some gray area in the middle. I think that the performance of Black Widow this weekend and what you're going to see coming out of it is that whichever side you want to take, you're going to be able to use these numbers to sell that story. Deadline, which is where I get a lot of my box office numbers, but Deadline's box office reporting is heavily pro exhibitor, pro box office. Every good showing is a great showing. So Deadline is going to be trumpeting that Black Widow proves that theaters will never die. And then you're going to get some people probably more in the middle, your varieties, your Hollywood Reporters, which generally tend to be a little more just the facts, ma'am. And then you will get some people, I'm sure you will get some people, because there are people that have been dead set against this movie from the beginning. There are things in this movie they're going to turn that I think are going to make those same people even more dead set against it. They are going to use the numbers to justify whatever they want, that Marvel is dying, that women don't sell, whatever narrative they want to peddle around this movie. They're going to use the numbers for that. So this is my weekly PSA, my daily PSA, whatever. Research for yourself. Don't take whatever narrative is thrown at your feet, because you're going to hear in the next few days that Black Widow is the messiah of movies, and that it ascended from above and saved exhibition forever. And you're also going to get the narrative that Black Widow is a hideous, heinous failure, and that it proves that Marvel should go back to whatever they were doing that people liked before they were doing what they were doing now. I never really know what that is. Neither of those narratives, I don't think, are exactly what's going to happen. I think what we're probably going to see when we look at Black Widow is, unless the numbers really fall through, we're going to get the highest opening weekend. It's going to top F9 for the highest opening weekend since the pandemic began. That's good news if you're in exhibition. I think that we're probably going to see, obviously, that it's not going to be at the levels of a lot of Marvel movies that we've seen. You cannot draw a direct comparison. And I even did that a little bit with F9 in my chart show. I was kind of edging toward drawing some direct comparisons toward the other Fast and Furious movies. And even I had to remind myself, well, now, wait a minute. It may seem like we're back to normal, but we are not back to normal. Just keep in mind, whenever you see a take on something, and that includes from me, that's from anybody you see on the internet. Do the research, look at the numbers, decide for yourself what you think, because we are in a situation where there is a lot of asterisks and enough gray area that you can take the number and really spin it however you want. So just be wary of that. Be aware of that. There are some bad actors out there. There's some good actors that want to just put a positive spin on the box office business. There's some bad actors that want to put whatever their spin is on everything, regardless of quality, box office, etc. I mean, I did a whole video. There were people there's a narrative that's still out there that Captain Marvel was a flop, just based off of nothing. The most backwards projections, the flimsiest evidence, and that's because that there was a group of people that were invested and had invested, and to be frank, still invest somehow 2 years plus years later, energy and time in Captain Marvel being seen as a failure, which it objectively was not. If we talk about flat, objectively it was not. Just financially it was not. Creatively, you can debate that all day. I didn't give it a good review, but just keep that in mind. We have a lot of asterisks and what ifs, and there's not really going to be an absolute cut and dry story on this, although I find it very interesting because of all that gray area and frustrating. But just keep in mind, even I was hearing from people saying that even though there are theaters in the U.S. that are open, many of them at full capacity, a lot of people just don't feel comfortable going back yet. So even if you could say like, well, Black Widow didn't play well because this market had full capacity and yet it didn't play, as well as it should have. Well, that doesn't mean just because the theater is open that everyone feels comfortable about going back. We're still on the road ahead. We're still on the road back. I think that in general, this is going to be a positive weekend. There's going to be a lot of theater owners that needed a big boost financially, that needed full houses, that needed sellout crowds. I think they're going to get that. Definitely, yes, last night and today, and we'll see how it goes into the weekend. So a lot of pluses and minuses to think about with Black Widow. I'm excited to see, me, I'm a nerd. I'm a numbers nerd. I'm excited to see what the final numbers are, to dive deep into those final numbers, to get things like the cinema score, which again, cinema score is not a measure of how good or bad a movie is. It is a score of how good or bad a opening night audience who was excited about that movie thought that it was. That's going to be a big indicator for how this is going to go forward. I've seen buzz largely from what I've seen so far. It seems positive. But we will see as the weekend goes on. A lot of stuff to get into, but just beware because there's going to be a lot of people that want to write the story on this movie this weekend, and the story will not be written this weekend on Black Widow. Before we go on to Stephen Dorff World, let's bring in Mara. Mara, do we have any questions already? Oh, I see a cat.
Yes, we have one new addition to the show. Sir Pounce has made his presence known. Yes, we do. We do have a question.
Okay.
From Lingair Sangor. I don't know if I said the last name right, but I read the comment and I think I got the first name right. Question is, do you have a favorite Honest Trailer commentary you've done? One that felt really fun or challenging? I still rewatch the Fallen Kingdom one all the time, smiley face. And you should watch the new Kissing Booth one.
Oh, did they do a commentary on the Kissing Booth? I didn't notice that.
They must have.
The one that sticks out to me is The Last Night. The Transformers The Last Night with the aspect ratios, and that's that one particularly got my goat.
I'm watching you have a mental breakdown.
That movie infuriated me in a way that even I think it's a better movie than Age of Extinction, but it infuriated me more cinematically. The Last Night, I think it's better quality wise, but cinematically it's not as good because the aspect ratios change between shots. It's so dumb. But that's one that I think of a lot is doing that one. The truth is there's so many of them. Like when we were first doing them, we would batch shoot them so that we would shoot like 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 at a time because we'd have to go through the whole library and the whole catalog. And so there's a lot of them that they're just lost in a haze because we would shoot so many of them at a time. I don't even remember what we said. But of the ones when we were doing them weekly, I think Transformers The Last Night was one that I definitely remember.
I actually think that I agree. I mean, between Jurassic World and Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, your ire for those movies is also pretty entertaining.
Yeah, I see. That's the thing, and I always, this is the same rule with the Schmodown, which is that the people that watch what I do are much more well versed in what I've done than I am because I generally forget anything that I said or did like the second that we're done. Like I'll walk off the set and my brain will go over to what's next and I'll completely forget. So a lot of people say like, oh, I love this commentary that you did or oh, do you remember the Schmodown match, this question that you got? And I'll be like, I don't. It just doesn't stick in my head. So I'm curious to know what I said in the Fallen Kingdom commentary. I'm sure it was indicative of my real feelings, but I can never remember what it was I actually said.
Well, I can guarantee that, especially from what I'm seeing in the comments, that it was particularly filled with Dan rants.
Probably, or Dan, as we know, I now call him the Dan stance.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm sure it was that was probably a rant. I'm sure that was a dumb movie. Don't get me started. It was a dumb movie.
Well, cat's falling off the sofa.
Oh no.
So I'm gonna go.
Okay. All right. Thank you, honey. I will be back with you shortly. And thank you. What is it? Langer? What was our question asker's name?
Oh, you don't have the Google Doc open? Lingair.
Oh, I do actually. See, I told you. Lingair. Thank you, Lingair. And this is why Mara keeps me on track. I could have easily looked at the Google Doc that I have in front of me, and yet I did not. So
what I'm here for.
That's wrong. You're here for many things.
Cat wrangling and Google Docs.
Yes. Well, thank you, honey. I'll see you in a minute. All right. Let's talk about Stephen Dorff. This is tied to our first story, believe it or not. If you don't know Stephen Dorff, it's probably not shocking. He was probably most notable for most people for playing Deacon Frost in the first Blade movie back in 1998. One of the first Marvel movies, period, actually. So his stance here may be a little bit surprising. He was speaking to the Independent, which is I believe a UK publication, and he had some thoughts on Black Widow. He said he was embarrassed for Scarlett Johansson. He says, quote, "I still hunt out the good shit because I don't want to be in Black Widow. It looks like garbage to me. It looks like a bad video game. I'm embarrassed for these people. I'm embarrassed for Scarlett. I'm sure she got paid $5-7 million bucks, but I'm embarrassed for her. I don't want to be in those movies. I really don't. I'll find that kid director that's going to be the next Kubrick, and I'll act for him instead." Now, one of a few important things to note. Number one, he's not saying that that Black Widow is bad. He's saying that the Black Widow looks bad. So he's prejudging a movie that he hasn't seen. Also, Stephen Dorff, this is a file photo. Stephen Dorff has not been in a movie that's opened in wide release since 2011. That Immortals in 2011. He has appeared since then in cinematic classics like, I guess comic book movies are too lowbrow for Stephen Dorff, but he has appeared in movies like Leatherface, the prequel to Texas Chainsaw Massacre that apparently exists. And in 2015, he was in a superhero movie called American Hero that did not come out in wide release. So, Stephen Dorff has some thoughts. Mara apparently also has some thoughts. So I want to bring her in on this as well, because I don't. This is a weird take for me. What do you think, hon?
Thoughts. First of all, thoughts. He has the audacity to talk about how a movie looks when the special effects for La Magra in The End of Blade are laughably bad, even for 1998. Like, abysmal quality, does not hold up whatsoever. Didn't hold up in the year 1998.
No, Armageddon came out in 1998. The visual effects in that movie were like 100 times better than Blade. And I know that Blade is like, but yeah, to be like, oh, I'm embarrassed for her. It looks like a video game. Like Blade looks like it was like a Sega Dreamcast, like not even PlayStation 1 video game graphics.
Well, to me, this is maybe a bit of a stretch. This sounds like, Scorsese had a very strong opinion about superhero movies, and it got a lot of discussion. It got a lot of attention. This seems like trying to capitalize on what that was, which is, I'm going to have a hot take. I'm going to get splashed on the front page of websites. I'm going to be talked about right now, since no one talks about me, because I honestly thought he died. I didn't know he was still alive.
He is still alive. He's still alive. He's not Brad Dourif, who I often just confuse him with, who is much better actor. That's the thing is, like, first of all, I think it's hilarious. He thinks that Scarlett Johansson's only making $5-7 million to be in Black Widow. I promise you, Scarlett Johansson is probably making double that, because this is like her 8th Marvel movie and it's a solo film. So she's making way more than $5-7 million bucks. And it almost feels like the kid that didn't get invited to the party. He's like, whatever, it's a lame party anyway. I didn't want to go. Like, I wouldn't go if you invited me. But like, if you did invite him, I'd be like, yeah, I'll go. Yeah, sure. Like, what time? It's just like, I doubt that Marvel has been banging down Stephen Dorff's door, to be in a comic book movie, or really that anyone else has. So it kind of feels like, I just feel like if you offered Stephen Dorff $5-7 million to be the star of a Marvel film, he would say yes.
Well, even if that was what she was paid, number one, it's up to people to determine their worth, not for other people to determine their worth, because plenty of people do passion projects for very little money. Although I am sure that you're right, and she was paid significantly more than that. But it's just, yes. I just think it's such an inappropriate thing to do, to value someone else's worth for them, like, even when you think it's being complimentary.
Yeah, well, he also had some thoughts about the state of Hollywood. He said this year's Oscars are the most embarrassing thing I've ever seen. He's embarrassed secondhand for a lot of people. I will agree they were embarrassing. My business is becoming a big game show. You have actors that don't have a clue what they're doing. You have filmmakers that don't have a clue what they're doing. We're all in these little boxes on these streamers, TV, film. It's all one big cluster F of content now. Now, I agree with like the beginning and the end of that. But again, like he seems a little, I don't know, he just seems a little high and mighty to me. Like, you mean look at these A-list actors and directors. They don't know what the hell they're doing. You know who does? The Dorff man, me. I only do direct-to-video and movies that make 40K and limited release. I've worked with nobody you've heard of on movies you'll never see, and I'm doing great. It just feels like this sort of like almost like he's justifying his own. Like if you want to do those movies, like live that. That's great, but like don't do those movies and then be like, and everything else everyone else does is bullshit. I don't even care. It's like, well, you obviously do care.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I just can't wait to hear. I would love for this to be a repeat segment of things that Stephen Dorff says he's embarrassed for.
Right. That's the thing. Stephen Dorff is apparently embarrassed by many things. So I actually would like to know. People. Right. He's embarrassed by things that other people have done. Not him. He's never done anything.
No, nothing to be embarrassed about.
Should be embarrassing or that he should be embarrassed about. Like definitely nothing that would be seen as like just an embarrassing thing overall, like that people would laugh at retrospectively.
Early data has already demonstrated significant negative health effects for vaping. I can't wait until he's looked at in 30 more years like the Marlboro Man is looked at right now.
Well, yeah, it'll be like Fred Flintstone. He's going to be the Fred Flintstone, like in the 60s when they run the old smoking ads that were like Fred is like, "Hey, Bonnie, look at these wonderful Lucky Strike cigarettes." Like, "Oh, I don't know, Fred, look at this." He's going to be the Fred Flintstone of like in 50 years. They're going to be, look at this Hollywood actor who was slinging the new cigarettes. Yeah. He wishes he was Fred Flintstone. I don't know. This is just, it's just like, again, if you want to take the smaller movies, if you think that Hollywood movies are BS, that's fine, whatever. But like, don't walk around like you're the cock of the walk. You know, I hope Stephen Dorff has exactly the career that he wants. But you know, if that's the career that you want, then don't look down on everybody else. That's all I'm saying. Did anybody chime in while we were doing Dorff talk?
Yes, actually. Call sign 24601. Great name.
Nice.
Hey, Dan, I've been trying to catch you so I can tell you something that needs to be on your anime list.
Okay.
Trigun, which if it's Asian, that would be its pronunciation based on how it's spelled, but I could be wrong. Okay. It could be anglicized to Trigun, but I hope it's not. Is one season, a complete story with fantastic villains, and is voiced by the wonderful Johnny Young Bosch. Oh, so I would highly advise it.
Okay, I'll put it on the list. I have Cowboy Bebop now that was sent to me by a wonderful patron of ours who sent Cowboy Bebop. That's on my list. I'm going to do like another show and tell. By the way, patreon.com/Dan Murrell. You don't have to send me anything. We just hang out and do fun stuff there. But I've got to do that. I've got Maria, our wonderful patron. We just checked the box like yesterday. Sent a DVD or Blu-ray stuff. I've got some thank you notes to send out. Is what I'm saying. But I've now got Cowboy Bebop in the collection to check out as well. Fun stuff.
I did find out that for whatever reason, whether it's changed or just spelled weird, it is pronounced Trigun. So
it is Trigun.
Interesting.
Okay.
Interesting.
All right.
Trigun. Also, Sarah Alex 99 says, "Hi Dan / Mara. Used to watch you on Screen Junkies and found your channel early this year and love what you guys are doing. I loved Black Widow. Not sure why it's getting such a bad rap. However, like Tenet, can we get Russian villains to be played by actual Russians?"
Are you saying that you didn't like what Kenneth Branagh was doing in Tenet? Because it was everything. He was doing everything.
I mean, disregarding the actual serious nature of the question, I don't know what he was doing, but I was 100% here for it. And I don't know why, but like really here for it.
I think that there's something that's sort of done where it's like if you have, and I think it's also because of the sort of geopolitics of it. I think for a while people were sort of leaning away from Russians as bad guys. And now I think like geopolitically, it's not as like weird to be like, okay, no, the Russians are the bad guys. But it's curious, like how many Russian actors would want to play that role, but at the same time, I don't know. It's a tricky thing to think about. I just think it's one of those, nationalities that Hollywood's just like, Russians, they're the bad guys, right? They've always been bad. We're going to go do an 80s show or an 80s movie, and it's the Russians. As far as why Black Widow's getting a bad rap, I mean, I gave it a positive review, but I was kind of mixed on it. I think it's, I don't know. I think if you love the movie, I understand why. There's a lot of great action in it. Especially if you love that character of Black Widow, it goes deep into that story and development. I loved the new characters. I thought that David Harbour was great. I thought that Florence Pugh was great. I think that Scarlett Johansson is so confident in her portrayal of that character. Script issues aside, I thought that she was good in the movie. I just think it's sort of, people value different things in movies, or they just have different outlooks. I don't really know how bad of a rap Black Widow is getting. I've seen some of the social media buzz, which has seemed to be positive. There's one thing in particular in the movie that I'm sure is generating a lot of negativity that doesn't have much to do with the overall quality of the movie. That is just not shocking. But yeah, no, I don't know. I'm curious to see what there'll never be an overall consensus, but to get more data back on what people are actually responding to and not responding to in a general sense on the film, because I'm curious to see that myself. But that's the thing that I hear a lot of people say, that like, oh, I liked this movie and other people don't seem to like it. Like, what am I not getting? Nothing. It's nothing that you're not getting. You liked it. There's no right or wrong in it. If you like a movie, then you liked it. You don't have to justify that opinion. You don't have to make excuses for it. You don't have to sit there and think that you're wrong if other people didn't like it. It is completely subjective, and that's why I've always felt that when I'm reviewing a movie as a critic, I try never to stray into that territory of me saying this movie is bad. Or this movie is good, and if you don't like it, you're wrong. I'm always like, I think this movie is great. I think this movie is not great, but you may have a different opinion. Film criticism particularly, I think a lot of people take it to a thing of just like, well, I am the arbiter of taste, and if I say it's good, it's good. I don't believe that. I think that film critics are there to talk about film. Even the consumer thing, like I don't score films. I am on Rotten Tomatoes. It's just it's a professional thing. It's helpful to me professionally to be on Rotten Tomatoes. And there you do have to give it an not arbitrary. I mean, I put thought into it, but you do have to give a recommendation, really. Red, green. I do give number scores on there because I don't like the just one binary recommendation that you have there. But even I am just like, the Rotten Tomatoes shouldn't tell you whether to go see a movie or not. If you want to go see the movie, go see the movie. And you might like it. That's just the way I think about it.
I think that was a dance dance, people.
Was that a dance dance? So there you go.
I think it was. I'm going to say it was because I'm the arbiter of taste, Dan.
That's right. I am not the arbiter of taste. It is Mara. Mara is the arbiter of taste as I drink Diet Coke.
I do have a much more well-developed palate than you do, at least for foods.
That's true. I have the palate of a 9-year-old. It's chicken strips and French fries and pizza.
I think I've evolved you, and at a minimum now, you eat my pizza, which is homemade with a 24-hour dough and with a double rise. It's 100% from scratch ingredients. I make my own sauce. I can't make my own herbs just yet. I don't have an herb garden, so I buy those. But
I believe you mean herbs. That's what they say in Great British Baking Show is herbs.
It is. That's true, right, buddy?
It really is like living. If you can imagine, if you've seen the Great British Baking Show, living here with Mara is like if you lived in that tent all the time. It's delightful. It's incredible. Really? Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
There's always a delicious treat.
There is always a delicious treat. That's true. You get also all my experiments, good or bad.
You run like a 95% success rate.
At a minimum, it's always edible, and you've never gotten sick. So I'd say that's progress.
There you go.
We did get one more question in before our next story.
Okay.
From could be Jodis. I'm going to assume that Diaz. Any thoughts about the news on Matthew Vaughn's announced Argyle spy thriller? I love the case. Cavill could be a great Bond, and interested to see Dua Lipa's acting debut since she will also do the track and score.
I have to be honest, I haven't really seen anything about that. I generally have enjoyed Matthew Vaughn's films. As I kind of type up to just sort of get the basics of it. I've generally enjoyed Matthew Vaughn's movies. I'm a big fan of Kingsman. I liked X-Men First Class. I liked Kingsman, The Golden Circle. Let's see, Henry Cavill, Sam Rockwell, Bryce Dallas Howard, Bryan Cranston, Dua Lipa, Samuel L. Jackson, John Cena, Catherine O'Hara for new Matthew Spawn spy franchise Argyle. Well, first of all, yes to all of that's like the Knives Out of spy movies. That's crazy.
Yeah.
First of at least 3 films in the franchise set in America, London, and multiple locations around the world. That sounds incredible. That's a news story that kind of passed by me, but I mean, you can't ask for better than that cast. And I agree with you that Henry Cavill would be a fantastic James Bond. I almost feel like he's transcended it at this point, almost like being James Bond would be a step back for him. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, here's the thing. By the way, that was meant to say love the cast. In case that wasn't obvious,
yes.
I didn't get the comment early enough. Anyways, I'm always a little worried when people put the cart before the horse and are like a minimum of this many films in a franchise, because that makes me a little concerned, even from a filmmaker whose work I really like Matthew Vaughn, that it's gonna be the worst case scenario is that you end up dark universing this, and that you end up with a movie that is all doing the world building and not telling a story, that ends up being just kind of a jumbled mess and leads to nothing because it was just trying to get to the next thing. So yeah. I'm cautious when I hear like the optimism tamps down just a little bit, just because I don't want to be disappointed, but I have faith in the filmmaker. They have great talent. So, I mean, they could just as easily pull off 3 or more fantastic films. Who knows?
Yeah. I mean, it looks like it's based on a book that hasn't been published yet. So they talk. Yeah, I know, right? We're at a point now where there's movies being made of books that haven't been published yet. But maybe he talked to the author and this is where it's going. Because I agree. Like, the only time that I'm sort of on board is when there's a map. There's like a roadmap, and it's like, you know, even like with Harry Potter, it was like, okay, we're doing X, but we know how many books there are going to be. So we're doing, well, it turned out to be 8 movies, but
that was a good decision in that case, though.
Yes, there would have been a lot of walking around in the forest, as there was in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. It's a good book, but my goodness, that second act is a lot of camping. That was a good choice. Generally, I don't know. The Hobbit choice was a bad choice. This should have been 2 movies. But yeah, hopefully they have a bit of a roadmap.
Zack Snyder's Justice League movie as well.
What's that?
I said I could have even done with The Hobbit being a 4-hour like Zack Snyder's Justice League type movie as well.
Yeah, just go all the way through from the beginning. Do 4 hours. I'm still, I tried that. I was doing that, and then I met you, and I had much better ways to.
Oh, what does that mean?
No, I'm saying that being with you was much better than sitting alone and re-editing The Hobbit. I've much more fun spending my time with you.
I want to finish that with you, especially as I get better at editing.
Yeah, it's on the to-do list. It's on the to-do list.
Yep.
All right. Well, absent anything else, we're going to do a twofer. We're going to do 2 in a row, and then we'll come back for more stories. How's that sound?
All right. That sounds good.
All right. So we've been talking about streaming a little bit. We've been talking about movies, etc. Patty Jenkins, who Wonder Woman 1984 was one of the first movies to venture into this brave new world of hybrid movie release, theatrical, etc. with HBO Max, has been talking. She was talking in an interview with The Hollywood Reporter. She says that streaming's day and date strategy, which is what Warner Brothers really and HBO Max have been pioneering, she doesn't think that this is going to be the future. She says, quote, "I don't think it's going to last. Streaming is great, but everybody's chasing it for financial reasons, and I don't think the financial support is there to hold up the industry the way that it is. It's one thing if it was only Netflix, but now every company has streaming. People are not going to subscribe to that many. Are studios really going to give up billion-dollar movies just to support their streaming service? Financially, I don't think it makes sense. I see theatrical coming back, and both should exist and will exist. People like to go to the movies. It's not because they couldn't see movies at home. We've always been able to watch movies at home. It's nothing new. I think it's totally coming back. So she, and there's some bad data to back this up. Warner Brothers has said that they are not going to continue the strategy past 2021. I think that they were very premature and basically calling their shot and saying that they were going to do it all year. But there's other people that are saying that, the theatrical window, for example, is shattered. That's going to be 45 days going forward. There's no two ways around it. So the theatrical window has been cut in half. But Patty Jenkins, not confident that it's going to be the new normal. She also talked a little bit more about the experience with Wonder Woman 1984. There were obviously some mixed feelings at the time. She went on to say, quote, "I don't know what I would have done differently because I feel that at the end of the day, it was a compromised decision based on a series of compromised options. The theaters literally asked us to do it. They said, we're going to shut our doors if nobody comes in. So what are you going to do? I'm filled with sadness that it didn't get a real theatrical run. I hope one day it does. It completely changes how people see it. But what are you going to do? It happened. So many people had terrible things happen during the pandemic, and we were one of the losses, although certainly not as serious as other losses that were suffered during the pandemic. But, I don't think that, I think that she's right there in the sense that, there was always the thing like, well, Patty Jenkins signed off on it. I think she signed off on it because it was sort of a Godfather situation. I think she signed off on it because that was the only option. It was that or nothing really. Would it have changed how people saw Wonder Woman 1984? I don't know if it would have changed how people regard it as far as quality goes, but I do think, and we've seen this a few times, some of these movies, it's almost like Wonder Woman 1984 didn't exist. It just, or at least never came out. It just appeared one day. It just popped into existence. And there's none of that whole narrative around it was in theaters and then the discourse and whatever. It came out and people talked about it. It's sort of like dropping a new streaming TV show. It came out and people talked about it for a weekend and then that's it. Nobody really said anything else about it. Apart from a few that have sort of kept the conversation going. And there's certainly a lot to talk about with that film. But I do agree it is a different experience. I mean, Tenet, does it really feel like Tenet ever really came out? We sort of we jumped over the part where it came out and went right into the thing where it just exists. And I think that there is an important part of a movie's life cycle where it's part of the cultural zeitgeist for X amount of weeks while it's in theaters or while it's doing a theatrical run. It's why I prefer the non-binge method of releasing shows. I used to like that, if Stranger Things or House of Cards or whatever came out on Netflix, that I could sit and watch a whole season over a weekend. But I also think that means it's very ephemeral. Stranger Things season 3 existed for like 3 days and then was gone. The Mandalorian and Loki and WandaVision, really the Disney Plus shows, the ones that come out week to week, they are now in the conversation for 6 or 7 or 9 weeks or however long their seasons are. And it feels like those shows are airing. It feels like they're actually coming out and there's episodes and there's discussion and debate. And it feels like what it used to feel like when a TV show would come out every week. The ones that it feels like the ones to me that come out as one season, you hear about them for like a few days and then they just sit on your to-do list. Whereas I think that when they come out week to week, they're a constant source of debate and discussion. I feel like it's the same way with movies. When they just come out streaming or even with the hybrid release, they exist for 3 days and then they're just there as opposed to each week. So I'm kind of with Patty Jenkins. I think there's going to be some combination, although it's going to heavily list towards streaming. But at the same time, I think that there's something that you can't replace about the cinematic experience, that there are going to always be a healthy amount of people that are drawn to. And that may be why this hit the news this week. Quentin Tarantino, who already owns the New Beverly Cinema in Los Angeles, which is a big revival house. It shows older films. It was in deep trouble. Quentin Tarantino revived it. He made a new rule. Only 35 millimeter or 16, only on film. Only movies projected on film. They show a lot of Quentin Tarantino movies there now. But he came in and bought the New Beverly. He has bought another theater, and it just so happens to be my favorite theater in Los Angeles. He made this announcement on Dax Shepard's podcast, Armchair Expert with Dax Shepard. Tarantino said that he plans to reopen the theater around Christmas, and that unlike the New Beverly, the Vista will be a first-run theater, meaning it will be running new movies. However, there is a catch. He will only show movies on film, which means that if it's going to play at the Vista as a first-run film, the studio has to provide a print of the movie on 35 or however they can show the film. He also says that the theater will play older films, but more on a limited run basis. The Vista, if you know me, I have seen literally dozens of movies at the Vista back in 2013, 2014. It was the theater that I went to sort of reinvigorate my love for the movies. I said that I was going to go see every movie they played there for an entire year. And I did do that. Some were great, some were bad, but it got me back into movie going. It's a single screen theater in the Silver Lake, Los Feliz neighborhood of technically it would be Los Feliz, close to Silver Lake of Los Angeles. It is a wonderful theater. First of all, great sound, so much leg room. There's no online ticketing. You have to go buy tickets at the box office, but that also means that the tickets are pretty cheap. It's far cheaper than any first run theater in Los Angeles. You can usually get it for about $10. Matinee prices are even cheaper. The manager there is so great, takes pictures, dresses up. I hope that he is somehow still involved in the running of the theaters, because he would dress up for the appropriate movies. He wouldn't do like Wolf of Wall Street cosplay or something like that. It was a very serious movie. He wasn't doing Milk cosplay, but he would do Thanos, Wolverine, Hunger Games, the genre films. He would dress up and tear the tickets at the door and take pictures. It's a really, really special place, and it's a historic landmark. I worried about it during the pandemic because it is a single screen theater. It was probably already somewhat struggling. I mean, when you're a single screen theater, if you book a movie that's not a box office hit, then you're stuck with it for a week or two and you don't make that money. And I'm sure it's not easy to consistently make money that way. So on the one hand, this is good. Quentin Tarantino is a film preservationist. He's got the money to keep the theater going. That is good. The only thing that I don't like, and I think that you just have to look at practicality versus reality. And I understand why Tarantino feels this way. But the idea that it's only going to play movies where the studio provides a print on film, because I understand that Tarantino thinks that the only way to see movies is on film. But what if Disney decides, well, we're not going to make a print of the next Avengers movie just for the Vista, or we're not going to make a print of the next Star Wars film just for the Vista. Force Awakens played there, I think, on film, but I can't think of another movie off the top of my head that played there. It was a digital theater. So, the question then being, if that's what Disney decides, or a big studio decides, Universal with Jurassic Park, whatever, that they're not going to provide a film print of a movie, then the Vista as an entity then would be turning their back on literally tens of thousands of dollars in revenue. I mean, the things that make a theater, because you're sort of standing on this Tarantino stance that film should only be shown on actual film. I admire that. I appreciate that. I'm a big advocate of the big screen experience. I think that there's certainly something irreplaceable about the big screen experience, but I also try to very carefully, and sometimes I go too far the other way, say that that's not the only valid way to see a movie. It's my favorite way, but it's not the only valid way. And I think that this is being a little too stuck in your principles. I love 35 millimeter film. It does look great. And Tarantino, listen, he runs the place, but at the same time, I think he could potentially be giving up. And I would hate to see this bring the theater down over time, where what if no studio wants to provide a 35 millimeter print of a movie, and then it does become a revival house. It does become, or you're booking movies that bring in a lower number of people, and then the theater does get into financial trouble that perhaps Tarantino can't or won't be able to get it out of. I just think that that's being a little too precious about it. Trust me, as a fan of the Vista Theater, I am already grateful to Quentin Tarantino for coming in and buying this theater. He is already preserving a very important piece of the cinematic experience in Los Angeles. I don't think you need to take the extra step by saying, and it's only going to be on film. Maybe it'll be enough of a venue that studios say like they're going to do the novelty of it and like, okay, we'll make Quentin his film print. But at the same time, I worry that it could potentially turn away big money getters for the theater, and the theater needs to stay in business because it really is irreplaceable. It is a part of the DNA of Los Angeles. I'm looking forward to when it does open around Christmas time, which is when Tarantino says it is going to, because the first chance I'm back in Los Angeles and I get a chance to go see a movie at the Vista, I will be there. I've seen so many dozens of them, mostly new releases, some older releases. I can't wait to get back there. And so, yeah, it's a mixture of gratitude and also a little bit of worry that Tarantino may be getting a little too cute with it. But who knows? It's saved. That's what matters. It's saved, and it's saved by someone in town that has a lot of influence, a lot of power, a lot of sway, and a big megaphone. If he speaks, people listen, and that's what movie theaters like the Vista need. They need an advocate. So net positive here. Net positive with some misgivings. Mara, before we move on, do we have any questions that have come in?
We do.
Nice.
One moment, please.
The Vista, by the way, Mara and I saw our first movie together in theaters ever at the Vista.
We did. I actually
Went and
almost
saw 10 Cloverfield Lane.
Us on a field trip because our movie tickets are on the walls all around me right now.
Yeah, and I'd say a hefty majority of them are Vista movie tickets. Those big purple tickets. But yeah, Mara and I went and saw 10 Cloverfield Lane. The first time she came to visit Los Angeles at the Vista.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's see. This I love. I don't know how to say this. Bredoty, Bredoty. I'm sorry,
Okay.
I'm really bad with names. I have a hard to pronounce name, and I mean, let alone screen names. So I feel your pain, and I'm very sorry.
Same way. Yeah. Hello.
Yeah, Murrell could be mispronounced, definitely.
Murrell is tough. Murrell, I get Murrell, Murrell.
I would say Knopic is a little bit easier to mess up, but I feel your pain though, still. Hi, Dan. Settle a bet for me. Is Mystery Men one of the greatest superhero movies ever made?
Well, here's what I'll say. It's been a while since I saw Mystery Men. I think it's one of the most unique superhero movies ever made. And I mean, it's tough to say settle a bet because unless the bet is, am I going to say it's one of the best superhero movies ever made, then it's a subjective thing. I'd have to honestly say, and it's a boring answer, TBD, because I have not revisited Mystery Men. I don't think since shortly after it was released, and so I'm not really sure how it holds up to my sensibilities upon re-examination. I do know that it's impressive that it's stuck around this long. There's a lot of other movies that have long ago faded away. And so there's got to be something special about it to a lot of people for it to have hung around this long. But I cannot settle your bet today because I wouldn't feel right either costing you money or making you money off of an opinion that it's been a little while since I've been able to see it.
Well, it's definitively one of the most unique.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. One of the most unique. No question about it.
Also, Juan Rodriguez said, hello there, Daniel and Mara. If you had to be a part of the core characters in the show, which Marvel Studios Disney Plus show would you be in? Also, I imagine your full first name is Daniel. Does anyone call you Daniel?
My full first name is Daniel. I was about to say, it's very formal. Family. Some family members call me Daniel. Not very much. I've been Dan since I was in early middle school, 7th or 8th grade.
And never Danny.
Never Danny. No, that was a. You would be corrected instantly if you called me Danny. But yeah, I would say that some family members occasionally, because I was Daniel for 14 years or so, and then I would say that's really about it. Very few family members, and that's it. I mean, Mara kind of does it in a very playful way. Daniel.
Yes, I do. Daniel.
But other than that, no. I actually changed it in 8th grade, or started going by Dan, because I had a principal who, for some reason, when she was making announcements, she would always say Danielle Murrell, which was wrong on both counts.
Odd.
And I would just get heinously made fun of.
Well, that's the fault of terrible
because it's
children.
middle school and, you get called a girl's name in front of the whole school. That's more than enough. Plus, it's kind of a pudgy kid. I was an easy target is what I'm saying. So I had enough of that foolishness and I shortened it. I'm like, I'm Dan now. And it took about a year, but then it caught on. I like Dan though. I'm a big fan of Dan.
I'm a big fan of Dan.
Yeah.
I'm a Dan fan.
You're a Dan fan?
Mm-hmm.
Was that the only question
I
had?
For right now, so. I would like to encourage you, even though I'm just going to say it, but I feel like it.
Oh no. Is it just me or is it everyone else? Mara's frozen for me, and I don't know if it's just me. I'm going to I'm going to act as if we're still on the air, and wait for the comments to react because I don't want to act as if we're not on the air. If you can still hear me, drop something there in the comments because otherwise I think we're both off the air. Let's see. It says everyone. Okay, we're still on the air. Okay, we're on the air, but Mara has frozen for us. We'll work on getting Mara back on the air. I'm just gonna message her real quick. Let's see. Okay. I think she's cycling back through. So that's why you never assume that you're off the air. That's why. So we will get back to Mara as soon as she's back. I promise. Thank you to everyone that's been sending in questions. While we're doing that, let's move on to our next story, and that is about we were just talking about the streaming world. This is one of the more confusing stories, and I've seen even just trying to parse out, and it just goes to show you the complicated nature of all of these streaming services and trying to figure out who's where and what deals mean what. Universal, you may have seen this. Universal has made a deal to stream exclusively on Peacock in 2022, but it comes with some caveats. So this is how this works right off the bat. Any movie that is under the Universal umbrella, meaning anything DreamWorks, Universal, Focus, etc., anything that's made under the Universal umbrella, beginning in 2022, will be exclusively streaming on Peacock with the streaming service, which is also owned by the same parent company. And so Peacock has locked up the rights for the first 4 months of what's called the Pay One window. Now, stay with me because this is going to get very complicated, but it's sort of crucial to understanding how these deals are being made now. So the Pay One window, it doesn't mean right after movies out of theaters. So basically it means starting in 2022, any movie that Universal makes under any of their banners, it's going to play in theaters. It's going to have a theatrical window, most of them. Then it's going to have a VOD/video window. That's when you can get it on iTunes, rent it on iTunes. When it is put out on physical media, you can buy it on Blu-ray. There's a certain window where you have it available there. Then you have what's called the Pay One window. It's what used to be mainly where it would go to HBO. A movie would come out, you'd be able to buy it on home video or whatever for a while, and then when you go to HBO. Now, the windows are all shorter now, but so the Pay One window is the first window after the video on demand rental physical media window. Starting in 2022, for that window, that Pay One window, Universal movies will be on Peacock exclusively for 4 months. Now, the complicated thing is that Pay One window is 18 months long, and things are going to move around. So if it's any Universal movie, DreamWorks, Illumination, Universal, Focus, etc., for the first 4 months in that Pay One window, it's going to be on Peacock. However, they made a separate deal that is also somewhat somewhat more complicated. So after that 4 months that it's on Peacock, there was another deal that was announced. Universal made a deal with Amazon Prime and IMDb TV, which is also owned by Amazon Prime, to put their movies, their live action movies only, for 10 months on Amazon Prime. So let's take a let's take a movie like Jurassic World Dominion, which is a live action film. It'll come out in theaters. It'll have the theatrical window. You'll be able to buy it on Blu-ray and video on demand, etc. Then for 4 months, it'll be on Peacock exclusively. Then for 10 months, it will be on Amazon Prime and IMDb TV, some of them. They also license some library titles to those streaming services exclusively. But then for the last 4 months of that Pay One window, it'll go back to Peacock TV. So it'll be 4 months of Peacock TV, Then it'll move to Amazon Prime for 10 months. Then it'll move back to Peacock for 4 months. How does this make any sense? I don't know. This is so freaking needlessly complicated. But keep in mind, that's just for live action movies. For animated films like DreamWorks films, etc., they already have a pre-existing deal with Netflix that's expected to stay in place. So the animated films that you get from Universal, DreamWorks, Illumination, etc., will be 4 months on Peacock, 10 months on Netflix, 4 months on Peacock. So it splits by medium. Live action goes to Amazon Prime and IMDb TV for the middle 10 months. Animated right now, it appears, will stay on Netflix for the middle 10 months. But the first 4 and the last 4 months for all Universal films will be on Peacock. This is why you keep seeing things like the Harry Potter movies popping on and off of HBO Max. But then they'll go back over to Peacock. So every time you log on to one of them and the other, like Harry Potter's back, and then it's like Harry Potter's leaving, and the other one's like Harry Potter's back. It's because of these rights and these deals that have been signed, and they bounce back and forth between these different streaming services. It is needlessly confusing, and it will apparently remain so. There was the thought that once everybody had started their own streaming service, that like, okay, well, Universal will license all of their movies to Peacock, and that'll be it. It'll be easy. No, they still want to make money. So it's you're still going to have these movies bouncing around. They're not going to be on a consistent streaming service. You're going to have to measure like, well, 4 months. Okay, it's going here, but here. It's very difficult. It's very difficult to parse. This is the new world order. This is how it's going to be from here on out. So just know that next year, 2022, Universal movies, Peacock 4 months, live action to IMDb TV and Amazon Prime for 10 months, then back to Peacock for 4, animation to Netflix for 10 months, then back to Peacock for the final 4 months. And then here's the fun part. After that 18-month pay one window is open, it can go somewhere else. So yay. Okay. Mara is back. So let's bring Mara back. Hi, honey. I don't know what happened. You froze.
I just wanted to be the center of attention.
Well, you succeeded.
Thank you. I don't seem to have missed much. We didn't have any questions coming in for in between this, and I believe you have another story. Is that right?
I've got a couple more. Yeah, a couple more stories, but I can just. They're very short. I can tell they're very short stories, so we could probably go through the rest. What were we talking about though? I can't even remember. Because you were in the middle of a point, but I've now forgotten. I was talking about Peacock for too long.
What was the last story?
The previous story was about the Vista.
The Vista.
And then we asked a question about.
Oh, that's right. I bet it was about one of our questions. Hold on. Scrolling.
Processing. Processing.
Oh, I guess. I mean, we were just talking about names. I can't recall.
Maybe I can't recall either.
Well,
maybe one of us will remember. Yeah, I'll run through these next few stories. And actually, you know what? I want to get your reaction to this next one.
Oh, by the way, I'd like to point out the cat is still here. He's just, that is him. Sleeping. He's just sleeping.
The Academy has invited some new members. And I'm curious to get, now this is just a partial list, but this is actually the smallest. You know, there was the Oscars So White controversy several years ago. The Academy committed themselves, the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, I should say, the organization that votes for and gives away the Oscars. They committed to massively diversifying and expanding their membership. So they've been inviting 600, 700, 800, 900 people into the Academy for the past few years. This is the smallest class. This is only about 300 people since that whole initiative began. But there are some new members of the Academy. Some new members of the Academy were invited. And so I just thought I'd get your reaction to some of these. Some of the now, a lot of them, they're not on this list, are people that won Academy Awards like Emerald Fennell, Yoo Jung-yoon, and people that were nominated for Academy Awards. But there were some interesting names that stuck out to me that I thought I'd get your reaction on. One of them is, I thought I put him on my list, Yahya Abdul-Mateen II, who was in
awesome.
Us and Charlie Show 07 and Aquaman. He's a member. He was invited to be a member of the Academy. Laverne Cox, who was in Promising Young Woman, has been invited to be a member. Henry Golding, I would not have thought, nice. Crazy Rich Asians, etc. Nathan Lane, kind of funny to hear he wasn't in the Academy to begin with. I mean, Leslie Odom Jr., I think he was he was like put in like two different branches, like the music branch and the acting branch. Our Pats.
Okay.
Robert Pattinson has now been invited to become a member of the Academy. Should have been nominated for an Academy Award, maybe a couple times over, not nominated.
Yeah, Good Time was so good.
Journey Smollett invited to be a member of the Academy. Kathy Yan invited to be a member of the Academy. Janet Jackson, not a member, has been invited to be a member of the Academy. That is surprising. You would have thought she's been in so many different movies, and yeah, but this is one that I like just because I love seeing him in every movie, and I love the fact that he's now going to be nominated for the Academy, be part of the process. Stephen Root has been invited to be a part of the Academy. Like, good for him.
Like he's kind of everywhere, but never appreciated for it.
Never appreciated for it. Like, he's been good in so many movies, supporting actor, Office Space, and Get Out, and Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Like, he's been good, consistently excellent in so many movies.
The cherished seminal classic, The Lone Ranger.
The Lone Ranger. He was in the Ballad of Buster Scruggs. He was like the bank manager, right? Who comes out in the armor. Like, that was the name. Like, I mean, these are all great. And there's a lot of members that I didn't mention that also got invited. But I saw Stephen Root's name, and I'm like, good. The Academy needs Stephen Root. Stephen Root should be in the Academy. So I'm very happy to hear that he's been invited, and I assume will be a part of the Academy. So yeah. I wanted to keep you on just to hear your reaction to those names, because they're pretty cool.
They are pretty cool. I'm excited.
That's all I got.
That's all you got?
That's all I got. Two more short stories, and then
I remember what it was now.
What?
I was going to tell you to tell other people to squishify the like button, to share the video if they're enjoying it with their friends, and to subscribe to the channel if they're not already subscribed.
Yes, please squish that like button. Share the video if you like the show and you want to spread the word about it. Subscribe to the channel if you've not yet subscribed. We're getting close to 100K. We're like less than 5,000 away, and I'd love to be able to get there by the end of the summer. So if you like the channel, and we had a question from somebody earlier, I get people every week that were following on Screen Junkies, and I get it. It's a big internet world out there that even a year plus weren't even aware that I had my own channel now, or just now finding me. So if you want to help spread the word, that's one of the best things that you could possibly do. If you like what we're doing here, is to spread the word about what we're doing and what the shows are like. And if you like what you see, and if you don't like what you see, apparently there's no difference between fame and infamy now. So whether you love me or you hate me, tell people about it. So thank you for that reminder. Squish that like button, subscribe, share, etc. All the engagement helps, apparently.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah. All right. What? Oh, we lost her again. Sorry, Mara. We'll get back to you later. The Tomorrow War. The Tomorrow War, by the way, I'm going to come back to myself for this. Shocker. The Tomorrow War, by the way, a movie that I quite enjoyed. I was going to do a review this week, and then I realized that we're stacked up this week. I may even try to get a Black Widow spoiler review out this weekend. So I don't know if I'm going to do a full review. But Mara and I watched The Tomorrow War this week, and we both actually, I'd heard about it, so it wasn't really on the top of our list. I really enjoyed the movie. It's not a perfect movie. It is in many ways a big, dumb summer blockbuster, but not big and dumb in like that stupid way. Big and dumb in kind of like the entertaining way, at least as far as I was concerned. I mean, could have been a little bit shorter. A couple things here and there that you're kind of scratching your head afterwards to say like, oh, well, yeah, I don't know about that. I'm not so sure about that. But as with everything that is good, it may very well be spoiled with a sequel, because it has been reported this week that The Tomorrow War is in talks potentially to have a sequel. Talks are underway with director Chris McKay. It's also said that screenwriter Zach Dean is in talks to potentially come back. Chris Pratt, Yvonne Strahovski, Sam Richardson, Betty Gilpin, Edwin Hodge, and J.K. Simmons are all wanted for a second go-round, but none of their deals have been done yet. So this is by no means a done deal. This is very much a thing that's in talks. One notable thing is that this is not done through Paramount Pictures. The Tomorrow War was not a movie that was made, quote unquote, for streaming. The Tomorrow War was done by Paramount. It was intended for a theatrical release. It was sold to Amazon for reportedly around $200 million as a streaming only release during the pandemic, because there was no indication of when it would be able to come out. And so it premiered as an Amazon Prime movie. But the deal that's being done now potentially is with Amazon Prime, not with Paramount. So it would be making a deal with the streamer, not the studio that originally greenlit the movie. I will have to say, as somebody that enjoyed The Tomorrow War, it seems more than the average person, I am very much not in favor of this idea. This is not a movie that needs a sequel. This is a movie for which a sequel cheapens the original. I think that I would actually retroactively like the first movie less if you had to go back and say like, oh, well, never mind. I mean, yes, time travel is a very important part of this, and you can get into all kinds of time travel hijinks, but there was a kind of almost ironic finality to what happened in this movie, that if you make a sequel, you lose all of that impact, just all of it. And I know some people would maybe say the same thing about a movie like Star Wars going into it. And maybe I'll be wrong. I've been proven wrong many times with sequels and reboots. I said, I don't like this idea. And then they come out and they prove me wrong. But I think you're pushing it with a sequel to The Tomorrow War. I think for me, the first one succeeded just enough on a wing and a prayer. And I had just enough goodwill to sort of let things slide. If you start kind of pushing it a little bit more, I start falling off board. So that's one thing. And then the final thing that I want to talk about before we get to your questions is just a quick note about Zack Snyder. He has made another deal with a streamer after Army of the Dead. He will now be developing a movie called Rebel Moon, which is based off of originally a pitch that he made to Lucasfilm for a Star Wars movie before the acquisition by Disney. The hope from Netflix is that they're going to make this a franchise across several different medium, as they've done with Army of the Dead, TV, comics, etc. It's set on a peaceful colony on the edge of the galaxy that's threatened by the armies of a regent named Belisarius. I think that may have been Darth Vader. The colonists dispatch a young woman with a mysterious past to seek out warriors from neighboring planets to help them make a stand. So yeah, again, this is sort of a 50 Shades of Grey with Star Wars, if you will. Hopefully better than that. But the idea being it was based off of something that was based off of an IP that has now been adapted to be its own original IP. If it's successful as 50 Shades of Grey, then Zack Snyder's going to have quite a hit on his hands. Although, again, with Netflix, what is a success really? We'll never know. So that's what Zack Snyder is up to, along with many myriads of other things. No word on a restoration of the Snyderverse, which has been pushed for by many. But he'll be going to a Rebel Moon, coming soon to a galaxy near you in a few years, probably. So that's all I got. That's all the news stories I've got for this week. We now have your questions. So, Mara, you've got the wheel. Let her rip. What are people asking today?
First of all, regarding the Tomorrow War, if nothing else can be, I think, relatively can go unchallenged. The creature design, phenomenal. The
creature design in that movie was so good, and the visual effects on those creatures were so good. Like that kind of like is what helped sell it. Was just like those creatures looked awesome. Those creatures looked really cool
for a little while too.
Yeah, and I mean, I didn't watch any of the trailers, so I didn't know going in what they looked like. To discover that in the context of the movie was great. What do you call it, though? Do you call it like the Today War? The Yesterday War?
Did they?
Tomorrow War 2 sounds weird.
In the trailers? Because I never watched
I don't know.
Either.
I don't know. I bet they did. I bet they did.
I hope not.
I'm going to put one on while we're talking.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, I'm going to start by asking you some questions.
Okay.
So Claire McGuire asks, hi, guys. I love film podcasts and was wondering if you listen to any. Films to be Buried With, oh, I love that title, is one I highly recommend. Brett is knowledgeable as a host who interviews his guests through the films in their lives. He's in Ted Lasso.
Oh, all right. I have my own, all my movies, which I would love for you to listen to. But I would say I don't listen to a whole lot of podcasts. I'm more of a books on tape guy. I'm that guy. But You Must Remember This, I think, is the gold standard for Hollywood for movie podcasts. That is just such a great show. So meticulous. That's what I aspire to be. That's the kind of show. Obviously, I can't make that show because that version of it is so good. That's the kind of show I aspire to make. So I will say that when I do listen to Hollywood podcasts or movie podcasts, I listen to You Must Remember This. I just find one of those stories, one of those arcs that I like. And listen to that because it's so meticulously well done. So Karina Longworth does such a marvelous job on that show. So that's really the only one that I listen to.
Two others that the Spider himself, Robert Parker, has recommended to me that I've listened to.
Okay.
Depending on whether or not you like the personalities involved, they may or may not be your cup of tea. But Binge Mode on the Ringer Podcast Network, they've done a lot of the big franchises, the MCU. They've done Harry Potter, Star Wars, and also the rewatchables. So, and they've done a bunch of different types of movies. So just something to check out in case it's your cup of tea. And also, Alan Smithy correctly figured out that the Tomorrow War sequel would be Tomorrow War.
Oh, the Tomorrow War.
Yeah, that's pretty perfect.
Yeah, it is. It is. That's pretty good. I'm looking at the trailer for Tomorrow War.
Yeah.
No real creature design giveaways, but they definitely. Oh wait, hang on. Are they going to do it at the very end of the trailer? Maybe. Oh yeah, no, they pretty much give it away at the end of the trailer, and also a lot of the big action money shots from the movie. So yeah, another example of me being very glad that I did not watch the trailer.
By the way, Sir Pounce, he's giving me all the love right now. Hey, buddy, do you want to give me cat kisses? Yeah, I know you do.
Oh, he's a good boy.
Yes. Muffin has yet to make her appearance. I think she's sitting right over there.
She waits to the most opportune/inopportune moment.
You should crack open the door right before the end, because I promise you she'll run in and jump right up on the desk.
Oh, most definitely she will.
All
right. What other questions do we have in store?
Sky the Boss 96 says, why do certain directors and actors disregard comic book films? Do they have to look and feel like Inception, Three Billboards, Moonlight, Jarhead, etc.?
I think that, honestly, a lot of comic book films, particularly in the early 2000s, didn't do themselves any favors by not being very good. I also think that there's a perception among some people that, honestly, I think it's more of a bias against studios. I think that as more comic book films have succeeded, more directors and actors have probably seen passion projects that they want to do get shoved out of the way in favor of another comic book film or a movie with a bigger budget, or they've spent budget on a big movie and they can't fund this passion project they want to do. So I honestly think it's more of a beef against studios, and they're not entirely wrong, and a lack of risk taking, and instead only investing in safer, big budget comic book films. And I also just think it's not for everybody. I think some people just think they're stupid. They're done. No matter what the content of a comic book film is, I think that some people are always going to look at them as children's movies and not worthy of serious praise or attention. And that I disagree with. I think that that's some of them, but I think that there are a lot of them that are great dramas, great action films, great spy films, great heist films. They just happen to have superheroes on them. But I think a lot of it's motivated by the fact that, particularly even you look at a director like Scorsese, who's just like, he doesn't want to make comic book movies. And when he sees that's all that's kind of getting the green light and he's got to go fight for The Irishman to get made, I'm sure there's probably like, well, why all these comic book movies? And they do see it as the death of cinema. So that's my guess.
It's just such a reductive way to look at something. Like, for example, rom-coms, not my genre, not a film I'd ever want to make, but I cannot typecast every single one of them as being bad. Like When Harry Met Sally is one of my favorite movies. It's definitely a rom-com. It's not a dramedy. It's not a romantic drama. It's nothing other than a rom-com. So,
yeah.
I just think it's a narrow-minded way to look at anything, to just typify all of it as one thing. I think that's what
I don't disagree.
Societally we're supposed to be getting away from, I'd hope, as we evolve societally. Oh, yeah. Mousetrap.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Tim 878787. Dear Dan and Mara, just wanted to let you know I love all my movies. I do understand it takes a lot to prepare. I really hope you can continue the show.
Thank you, Tim. Yes, the show will continue. In case you missed this week's episode, at the end, I make an announcement that at the end of July, I'm going to be ending my partnership with Skybound and SEN. No anger there, no hostility, no bad feelings. We're going to continue to work together on projects in the future, and I'm definitely going to be continuing on in the Schmodown. The big impetus behind it being, as I discovered what I loved about making the show, it was doing these kind of deep dives and it just takes a very long time to research the show, to put it together, to edit it, etc. And to do that on a weekly basis, the show wasn't big enough to the point where it sustained itself for me to take time away from other projects that, I could maybe take X amount of my time away from to do the show. And so on a weekly basis, it was just sort of untenable in the sense that like I had no time, not even free time, just time at all on the books. And so the show will continue. Probably that's the thing I haven't figured out yet is it going to continue to be on YouTube? Is it going to be an audio only show? What's the frequency going to be? Is it going to be like a twice a month thing? Am I going to do kind of a batch thing where I produce a batch of episodes and release them over a series of weeks? That's what I have to figure out. But, a lot of people have asked, and All My Movies isn't going anywhere. I love that show. I love making that show. Believe it or not, if I could put more time into each episode, I would. There's very few episodes that I've put out that I'm 100% happy with. And that's tough for me because I'm a bit of a perfectionist. I only want to put out things that I'm 100% happy with. But when you're on a weekly schedule, sometimes you just have to get it done. And so I am very committed to the future of that show and want to keep making it. I want to make it better. But the first step in making the show better is stepping back and figuring out how I can make the show on a sustainable schedule. So fear not. All My Movies will still be made. You'll still be getting it. The question now is just like in what format and how often.
Very good.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm having to cut and paste something really quick.
Oh,
all right.
Fun.
I know, right? Cutting and pasting. Aussie Nerd asks, I'm a big fan of the SCP Foundation, and you were the one that talked about it on Drunk Movie Fights, which is how I heard about it. I don't know what that is.
Oh yeah, I'm actually trying to. I feel terrible. That's first of all, if I talked about it on Drunk Movie Fights, first of all, that was many years ago. Secondly, it was the SCP Foundation. You say SCP?
That's what was typed. Yes, Sierra Charlie Papa.
Okay. The thing I found is fictional. The web-based collaborative fiction project. Okay, I see. I feel awful because this is something that
in that they remember the episode and someone else talked about it, but that you were there, so it's possible maybe you were part of the conversation. I don't know,
that may be so. Like I said, if it was Drunk Movie Fights, depending on what point in the show it was, I don't remember anything anybody said. But especially if it was something that I did not bring up. However, that is one of the things that I love hearing about is if somebody hears about a movie or something that, or a particular organization that we're advocating, et cetera, then that's great. I love knowing that. I love that we're able to bring something beyond just sort of the ephemeral entertainment of the moment, but that we're able to recommend something that people enjoy going forward. So I apologize for not remembering exactly what that was or what that conversation was, but I am glad that Movie Fights by extension connected you with something that you enjoyed. So that's awesome. It's great to hear. Apologies that I don't remember a little bit more.
Matt Chapman said, yes. Dan, The Sparks Brothers is my favorite film of the year so far. I heard it's coming out on VOD soon or possibly now. If you aren't planning to do a video, can you review it here? Mara, good luck tomorrow. I'm excited. What's tomorrow? Oh, tomorrow. Duh. Yeah, we'll talk about that afterwards.
We'll talk about that. Yes. The Sparks Brothers, yes, is now available on demand. If you were not able to see it in a theater, it is one of my favorite movies of the year so far. It is about, if you don't know, it's about this band that I was sure that I would have heard of because they've been around for decades called Sparks. They are Americans, but they were largely popular, at least initially, in the UK. And they were a massively influential band, particularly in the 80s on groups like Duran Duran and but have evolved and continued making music for like 5 decades now. And it really is a great picture of like uncompromised creativity, but not in a belligerent way, just in a way that comes from love and passion and not wanting, kind of like was saying about not wanting to put anything out in the world that's not perfect. The idea of not wanting to put anything out in the world that's not 100% from your heart and soul. And this works to their detriment often, because they're very, you can't put them in a box. You can't say this is the kind of music they make, because with every album it would change. And it's such an interesting picture of this band. It's directed by Edgar Wright. We've been playing Sparks ever since. I love their music. It is so weird. Like, it's the kind of thing like it influenced everyone from Duran Duran to Weird Al Yankovic. I mean, their music was so influential to Beck, to you. I mean, it's just a crazy amount of influence that they've done. Great movie, especially if you like music. It is on demand now here in the US. It may be available elsewhere if you're outside of the US, or perhaps it's still in theaters. I think some theaters here domestically as well. So some great places. If you can find the Sparks Brothers, it's a great documentary. One of my favorite movies of the year so far. So there you go.
I think it is my favorite movie of the year so far.
It's really good.
Take.
It's really good.
See here, scrolling. All right, I have to scroll all the way up and then all the way down every single time. Damien Barriga asks, have you noticed critics might trash a film based on an actor's personal views? Is that fair? Shouldn't that have nothing to do with reviewing the movie?
Yes. Short answer, yes. Views, personal views, meaning, I don't think that, I mean, it's kind of a, views and actions, etc., can be a very slippery slope. But I think as far as personal views, I don't think that it should change, in my opinion, should be part of, unless they're just heinous. I mean, like, and we know when I say heinous, we know what I'm talking about, like the worst of the worst. But I think that, particularly on the political spectrum, for example, and this is a hot button issue, but like when I go back and watch The Mandalorian, whatever Gina Carano said on social media does not change my opinion of that show, of her character. Now, a lot of the things that she said, I disagree with to the nth degree. But I don't bring that into my view of the show itself, because that's just now some people, if you choose not to separate those things, I'm not going to say you're wrong, but I do think that if you bring a vendetta in that's unrelated to the piece of art, that's related to a political viewpoint that is just different from what you believe, I think you should be able to divorce yourself as a critic from that. If it transcends that and becomes harmful to other people, that's a different discussion. But yeah, no, as far as just like being biased against people that disagree with you politically, I don't think that that's necessarily, if I would hate every Arnold Schwarzenegger film. And even though he's sort of come back around now to I think things have gone so far one way that he's he's so far the other way now that he's gone left. But, for a long time, he was a very high profile Republican. And I'm, full disclosure, I generally politically tend to not lean that way. But that doesn't change how I feel about Arnold Schwarzenegger films. It just means that I don't agree with him politically. So yeah, I think that, there's a lot of discussion to be had, but I don't think that political disagreement just on its surface should change how you feel about someone's movie.
Right.
That being said, there were some pretty extreme things that were said,
Well, right. And I think that, at least for me personally, there are a lot of things about people that we don't know who or what ever knew about those things. So someone may have entered into a project of art with someone not knowing something about them that has since come to light that societally we disapprove of, philosophically, just on a standards of equality and how we should treat other people with dignity. So I can't blame someone or something if I don't know that they knew that. However, I can blame them going forward if they continue to work with that person knowing things. And I'm not saying she specifically, but any instance where it's like, we should all strongly disapprove of this, and to reward that person with future work, I can choose to judge that future work and not give it my money, like
Right.
There are certain filmmakers, for example, that I'm not going to give them my money. I'm not saying that you have to judge their art negatively solely just because they've made it. If people want to divorce themselves from it, that's fine, but I'm not going to choose to support it financially.
Well, and as a consumer, that is 100% within your right. Like, I'm speaking more of just like as a critic, whereas like if you take my consumer action out of it and it's just me as a critic, there's a point at which I just have to sort of compartmentalize and say, and again, this is not with everything. This is just, again, in the spectrum of the question asked, with people that I disagree with politically, there's a point at which I just have to compartmentalize and say, like, this is how I feel about this person off screen, but my job right now as a critic is to view this movie or this TV show apart from that.
Oh, of course. That's just my interpretation because I am not a critic. I'm just somebody who talks about movies and people sometimes listen. Totally different roles.
Sure. Yeah. Consumer behavior, consumer opinions and critical opinions are two separate things.
Yes.
Good question, though.
Yes, very. Secular Monk says, "Hi, Dan and Mara. Having watched your box office show for a while now, I always wondered, did you ever end up seeing Wolf Warrior 2?
No, I did not end up seeing Wolf Warrior 2. I know that it was available for streaming. Yeah.
Busy, though.
Busy and also just, I don't know. I didn't know. I did not. Maybe someday. It's a long movie, as I recall. It's a very long film.
Ryan R. says, "Hey, Dan and Mara, just wanted to say thank you guys for all my movies and all of your content. My wife and I have been watching a ton of movies and at least once a week pick a film from your shows." Oh,
that's awesome. Thank you. That's great. That's why I love sharing my love for movies, because if I love a movie and I talk about it and then somebody else finds that movie and they love it, it's like you're giving someone a gift. It's like you're giving someone just like a little gift, which is great, because then they give that gift, and that's how art works. Someone responds positively, they tell someone else, and they give the gift of that art to somebody else. So that's awesome.
Mystery Me says, "What headphones are you using there, Dan?" Which, if you can't answer that, I can, because I got them for you.
These are Power Beats headphones. The
Power Beats
Amara 3. Yeah, I've had them for a few years now, and they're very good. I don't know why I kind of forgot that I had them, because I've been wearing wired headphones for a lot of my shows, and then really just a few weeks ago, Mara reminded me. She's like, you can use your wireless ones. I'm like, oh yeah, that would be way more comfortable, and B, less like white strings coming up to my ears. So yeah, these are Power Beats 3. And they're great.
And these are Beats Flex, which are a slightly different version of their headphones. Because I've gone through 3 pairs of Power Beats and a pair of the Studio Wireless. I wear headphones routinely, hours a day, between either things that I'm doing with Dan, things I'm doing with other people, not wanting to bother Dan with whatever I'm listening to if he's doing work in the same space that I am and we're not working together. Exercising, all of that stuff. So big fan of these. By the way, they have not yet gotten destroyed, which is saying a lot.
That's good. Yeah. We go through headphones. I go through sunglasses and Mara goes through headphones.
That's true. Mystery Me also says, "I feel like Amazon getting that 10-month period of the pay one window for Universal Films was the price Comcast/NBC you had to pay to finally get Peacock on Fire TV."
That's very possible. I mean, who knows what these wheeling and dealing, these backdoor deals are made all the time, especially, it's like, oh, Peacock's on the Fire Stick now. Let's wait. It's in the deal. We're going to wait 6 weeks and then we'll announce this other thing. So people don't, because some people might say it's a sign of weakness to say like, oh, well, you signed away the rights to get on. It makes you look desperate. So I think that's very possible. I'll say that. It's very plausible, especially with the way that, deals work now to structure it. So it's like, oh, well, it reminds me of the first show that I worked on in LA was this show that was it was the first year ABC didn't have Monday Night Football. It was called Emily's Reasons Why Not. It starred Heather Graham, who was lovely, just was a wonderful person. And after one episode, they canceled it. But they didn't say they canceled it. We just got a fax that said like, here is your new air date. Episode 2 is TBD, and also all future episodes are TBD. And then we got told like, oh, they're putting it on hold. Well, first they said they were putting it on hold. They're like, we're putting it on hold. I mean, everyone's going home and we're going to wrap the sets and we don't know when we're going to air again, but the stations, ABC is just going to hold on to it for a while. And what it really was a way to save a star at that time of Heather Graham's caliber of being in a show that got canceled after one episode. It's just like, oh, well, after one episode, the network is reevaluating, and then they'll make a decision down the road when they had already made the decision to cancel the show. But that's the kind of corporate thing that these face-saving measures that they'll take, where that could have very well have been a condition, and they wait X amount of weeks so that it doesn't look like one of them signed the deal from a position of weakness, like Amazon, or that Peacock was desperate to get onto Fire Stick, which, by the way, they probably were, from what I've heard about Peacock. I've heard Peacock needs every subscriber and viewer it can get. So I think that's, you might be onto something there.
Dakota Barber says, Road to Perdition has some of the most gorgeous cinematography I've seen in a movie. One of my favorite Newman roles after The Sting. Yes.
The great Conrad Hall and Paul Newman. I think that was both of their last live action films. I could be wrong, but that's a beautiful, beautiful movie. I love that movie.
11 Blue says, have either you or Mara seen 1951's The Thing from Another World? If not, I highly suggest it. If you have seen it, what are your opinions? Also, has Mara seen John Carpenter's The Thing?
Well, we've watched The Thing together a few times, so I know that the answer to the second one is yes. I've not seen The Thing from Another World. Have you seen it?
I also have not.
So there you go. So yes on the remake, no on the original.
Yeah. Very important to know I've seen John Carpenter's The Thing, and I have opinions. Yes. I have fan theories, I have headcanon, and I will convince everyone that I'm right. Anyways,
I tried to get Christian to watch it to do all my movies, but he was too busy.
Ooh, shots fired. Anyways, Chase B. Anderson says, this is great. D Money and M Dizzle, what should I have for dinner tonight? Also, what is your all-time best and worst movie deaths?
D Money and M Dizzle. Well, dinner, I mean, I found that you can never really beat a sandwich. They're so versatile. Hot, cold, vegetables, meat, you name it. So I would just say plainly a sandwich, because that could be literally almost anything.
I'm going to provide several options because I don't know exactly what they're in the mood for. For at-home options, I will second the sandwich, either cold deli or hot panini. I would also substitute in a grown-up grilled cheese. Pizza rolls are always an acceptable fast option, even if you don't have a toaster oven or air fryer. Microwave is fine.
You guys want some pizza rolls? Sorry.
For dining out options.
Sorry.
For dining out options, I'm going to say a tough choice, but I'm going to go with like higher end and lower end from the takeaway. I'm going to say either Panera Bread or Taco Bell.
Yeah, tacos in general. I like what we call Mexican food, which is really closer to Tex-Mex down here. But yeah, it's delicious.
Also, yes, Prince of Poo Poo. I can plan your meals from now on. Not a problem. This is great. Darth Lobo asks, hey, Dan and Mara, have you guys checked out the Chainsaw Man trailer? The manga is pretty popular, and even though anime doesn't have a release date yet, everyone is losing their minds over how good it looks.
I've not. I should. I saw they put out a little tiny teaser for the next Demon Slayer season.
Really?
But I haven't watched it yet. Yeah.
Ooh, I want to watch it.
Yeah.
Alexi Michael, maybe. I have fewer vowels than I need to make an informed decision on pronunciation. I tried. My friend and I have this saying, MCU's like McDonald's. You always know what you get. DC's like a small diner. You never know what you're going to get. Thoughts?
I mean, I found diner food to be in a way more consistent than McDonald's food. I love diner food. Although I guess that is true. Like if you get I do like the analogy because that's true. A ham and cheese sandwich is different at every diner in the world. Sometimes, you get the real melty cheese. Sometimes you get the thicker bread. Sometimes you get, different kinds of ham. Whereas McDonald's is the same everywhere. So yeah, you know what? I guess I kind of mean what you. I see what you're saying. Like with the DCEU for me, sometimes it's a delicious meal, and sometimes it feels like someone dropped it on the floor before they served it to me. But I like that analogy.
Why I don't
though.
eat
That's
meat
true.
At McDonald's or really
Well, there you
anywhere,
go.
but definitely not McDonald's.
That's true.
David Ward says, "Hi from the UK. Love you guys and all you're doing. I recommend the PC Blockbuster, which has voice actors dramatizing the rise of Spielberg and Lucas." Oh, interesting.
PC, like
that was what was typed, like lowercase Papa Charlie. I don't know. Hold on. Let me
interesting.
Let that, as Zach Galifianakis' character would say in the Lego Batman movie, it's probably worth the Google.
Yeah. I'm not familiar with that, but yeah, you just learn lines.
I don't know.
You're stuck in your head. That's all right. I'll look it up while you're continuing with questions.
Okay, continue. Yes. Sorry, that could be that I might have missed a comment from someone correcting like a misspelling, or I might have missed something. So that could be me. To move forward, while you're looking at that, we can go to Alan Smithy, who said, "Hi, Dan and Mara. Just wanted to echo other people's comments that All My Movies is a fantastic show. It's obvious that you put tons of effort into the research and production. Do you like The Burbs or own it on physical media? Would love an episode on it."
Well, The Burbs is obviously a very infamous movie for me. With my Schmodown history. First of all, thank you. I'm glad you like the show. I don't own The Burbs, but we did rewatch it. I rewatched it a couple years ago because I realized that I could never again get a Burbs related question wrong in the Schmodown, or I would never hear the end of it. And I must say that I enjoyed it. So I don't own The Burbs, but I wouldn't be opposed to it, and I think it would make a very interesting episode of All My Movies.
Yeah, I mean, we add new movies to the shelf pretty much every time we can, so it could end up there.
That's true. If we got a great if we have a great deal, if we get a great deal on The Burbs, we'll add it to the list. We'll put it on the list.
Should I keep going forward?
Yeah.
Okay. Rondo Calrissian says, "Is Dan still exploring any anime? Ever see Cowboy Bebop? It has many film influences and a live action adaptation coming soon."
Cowboy Bebop, as I mentioned earlier, has been sent, and I have the full series available to me. I am still exploring anime, and one of the benefits of doing All My Movies a little bit less is that I will have time to do other things a little bit more. Things like Dan Explores Anime and Why I Love and other things like that. When you remove All My Movies from that weekly schedule, I now have a little more time to devote to other kind of long-term projects, video essays and stuff that I just have had zero time for in the last 10 months or so. So yes, I am looking forward to exploring anime more. I've watched a few more. I watched Your Name, which I did an All My Movies episode on, and then a couple more, one for Movie Club over on Patreon. But yes, I look forward to exploring more anime.
I mean, there are also a couple of episodes that we have banked that we have not put out yet. So there was some anime exploration that has also happened that the public is not yet privy to.
That's true. Yeah, that's very true.
Damian Barrigas says, "I asked because I think Tomorrow War might have gotten crapped on due to Chris Pratt's personal beliefs. As an example, I vividly remember a Tom Cruise backlash affecting MI3's, which is their favorite, box office / reviews."
I agree. I mean, Tom Cruise's off-screen, some might call antics or whatever, 100% affected the perception and the reaction to Mission Impossible 3, which still is, it used to be easily my favorite Mission Impossible movie. It's probably top two-ish for me. I love Mission Impossible 3. And yeah, Chris Pratt for me is one where, from what I've seen, it seems like there are many of his beliefs that I don't agree with. But again, from a critical perspective, watching that movie, it's just not something that I bring into consideration when I am deciding the artistic merits of the film. It's just how it is. They're two separate worlds for me. What I might think about someone's belief, agree or disagree with them off screen. And that's also to mean like, I adore Tom Hanks's off screen persona. And I agree with many of his political beliefs, but I don't bring that to whatever the Tom Hanks movie that I'm watching at the time is. It doesn't matter to me if I agree or disagree with him on screen. So I would hope that there weren't a lot of critics that were harsh on the Tomorrow War because of Chris Pratt's personal beliefs, because I don't think that is a valid artistic criteria if you're discussing just critically evaluating a film, not on a personal level, but on an artistic level. So I hope that wasn't the case. I think that there are probably people in the general public who may have looked down on it because they don't disagree with Chris Pratt. And that's a different thing, in my opinion, but hopefully there weren't a whole lot of critics that were judging the movie based on that. That would be unfortunate, in my opinion.
We're getting some clarification, by the way, on a couple things. Aussie Nerd does say, I knew you'd forget about the SCP Foundation, but
Sorry.
Also saw Prisoners, which is now on the top of their list of movies that they saw this year. Really good.
It's a great movie. I love Prisoners.
Hard watch, but good movie.
Yeah.
Grumpy G says, hi, Mara and Dan. I know you said it before, but it needs to be said again. Shoot an email to those Milwaukee RLM guys and see if you can work something out. You would be such... I don't know what that's supposed to say, but I'm assuming it's something positive and a winky face.
Okay. I would, as I've always said, I love Red Letter Media, and I have been a fan of theirs for quite some time. Even though I know the Nerd Crew was partially based on what we were doing. I don't care. I thought it was funny. If you can't laugh at yourself, then who can you laugh at? I have,
someone would say.
Well, you can laugh at other people, but I think you have to, I think you should be able to laugh at other people and yourself. So I would always, if I ever found myself saying very cool on SJU or something, I always kind of chuckled to myself. So, again, I've said it before. Perhaps it's my insecurity coming through, but I almost feel like I am not worthy of emailing Red Letter Media and being like, hey guys, can you come hang out? Just because they don't need me. They're doing just fine on their own. They don't need me over there messing around with them. But I love those guys. I think they're hilarious. Even when we disagree, and we do not fairly often, but from time to time we'll disagree on a movie. I still find them enormously entertaining, and I think that they're above all, even given all the antics and the whatnot, I think that they are genuinely good movie critics. Like, I think that's why I'm able to disagree with them. When I watch their review of a movie that even if they didn't like it and I did like it, they are so able to transcend above that was stupid to like actually explain why they didn't like something, that I respect their opinion, because that's something that you don't see. You see it in far fewer critics than you should, is the ability to actually explain why something is good or bad, which is kind of what film criticism is all about. But explain it also in a way that if someone disagrees with you, they can understand where you're coming from. So I really respect them, not just comedically. I think they're hilarious, but also as critics, because I think that they're really, really good critics. I clapped when I saw it.
11 Blue says, Mara, you can't leave me hanging like that. I need to know what theories, opinions, and headcanon you have. I'm obsessed with that movie. Well, I won't co-opt a large amount of time, but I'll say one popular fan theory that I also subscribe to that you may have heard already is that at the end, when McCready offers Childs his flask, like to drink out of, because he's a bit of a drinker. I believe that when they were making the Molotov cocktails, that is actually gasoline in the flask. So when he offers it to him, Childs drinks it and says nothing to the effect of knowing that it's gasoline. And you see McCready kind of go, huh. Like, I don't think that it's a, well, we're both screwed kind of an expression. I think it's a, oh, well, I know it's you and I'm screwed, but technically we're sort of both screwed, maybe. So who knows? At least until the next movie. But anyways, I mean, I know it was technically not a sequel, but still, just gives you more information. But that's one of them. I also I have a theory that I'm gonna do another one.
Do it.
That he's technically the thing. That there was more than one thing, and that when he goes and he kills the guy earlier, and that was the thing. That this was actually a calculated decision for survival of the most likely to survive. You would think it's counterproductive to kill another thing, right? You'd think that, oh, well, it's infected, if you want to say something else. So why would you kill it? Why wouldn't you act like it's not a thing or let someone else do it? But he had the more likely chance of being able to survive. He was not looked at like he was suspicious. And so, I mean, there's always that possibility too, that he was actually a thing already.
You think McCready was perhaps a thing?
He could have been, yes.
Interesting. I like it.
At that point. I mean, again, there's a little bit of a question as to when that could have happened, but without getting into too many specifics. Now, if we ever watch the movie for a watch along or do a commentary on it, I am so there to talk the entire time about this. I got lots of stuff. Lots of stuff.
Lots of stuff.
You'll find out, by the way, that my headcanon related to movies is vast and extensive for lots of different movies.
It's true.
And I've converted many a person with my thought process specifically about Star Wars stuff. So that can happen sometime. Anywho, moving forward, David Ward clarifies and says by PC they meant podcast blockbuster. So that I didn't see it. I didn't get it at the time. Really great audio experience. Season 2 covers James Cameron from his youth to Titanic.
That sounds great. Yes. I am old. And so when you say PC, I think personal computer.
Well, I know that a lot of times, like the American vernacular is pod. People just say like, oh yeah, the blah, blah, blah pod. So it's possible that since this donation was in pounds, and I believe they mentioned the UK earlier, that just may be a difference in vernacular that we're not aware of, and not that we're old. It could also be
I think
both.
of John Hodgman and Justin Long. I'm a Mac and I'm a PC.
Oh, that's old.
It's so old.
Okay. A Skewed One has sent us our mandatory beat poetry. So do you want to scroll
should
over
I read
to
it? Yeah.
I think you have to read it.
I think I do. All right. So we have, if you don't know, when people send us little GIF emojis or whatever you want to call them, when you copy and paste them in the text screen, in the Google Doc, they show up like really weird beat poetry. So this is our GIF emoji, whatever you want to call it, beat poetry for today. Get ready. That's a good one. Shiba dog saying good job while raising his thumb up. Thank you.
It's really cute, by the way.
Yes. Is it?
Yeah, it's really cute. I mean, it's a Shiba. Of course it's cute.
Shibas are very cute dogs. Yeah.
Taylor Paris?
Mm-hmm.
Taylor says, hey, Dan, do you find the anime recommendations overwhelming? You seem to get a lot.
I do get a lot. It's wonderful to have a wealth of recommendations. It's only overwhelming in the sense that I know I'm not going to have time, at least not in the near future, to get to all of them. And I don't want anyone to feel like they're being slighted. But it's great to have a large variety of things to look at. It's overwhelming just in the sense of from a time perspective. But it's a good problem to have. I'm generally overwhelmed with like movies and TV just across the board because there's so much that comes out that's like blah. I can only watch X amount of it, and I miss so much good stuff.
This cat is just going to town on himself right now.
Bath time.
Anyways, bath time for his downstairs.
There you go.
Yep. Esteban Reyes says, "Thank you for killing it. Your work has inspired me to develop film into my future educational lesson plans. Thanks again, and keep up, you two." Oh
I hope that it is functional. I think film is a great teaching tool, and so I'm glad to hear that. That's awesome.
And then Grumpy G clarifies earlier. There was, I think, just a minor loss of a letter there, which made me a little confused when I was reading it earlier. They meant to say odd duck. So awesome odd duck. So
I would be the
related
odd
to
duck
you.
with Red Letter
Yes.
Media.
Yeah.
Interesting. I don't know if I'd be that odd. I don't know. I met Jay several years ago. He was we got along pretty well. He's an editor. We generally, of everyone, I tend to I don't know. I'd say I tend to agree with Mike a little bit more than I agree with Jay, but they often agree with each other. But Jay and I seem very similar in personality and also, editing and whatnot. Yeah.
That is all that I have.
That's all we have. All right. Well, I'm going to take our banner off so that because we do need to start wrapping up. We got a little Patreon thing coming up in a bit. But Mara, before we go, tomorrow is a big day for you. Big day. I'm gonna get you're getting the spotlight. I'm giving you the solo spotlight. Tell people about.
I should have given you a graphic from it.
Oh.
Oops.
Well.
Oopsie.
That's all right. You know what? I'm going to try to pull while you have the spotlight. I'm going to try to pull something in. I'm giving you the light. It's like a split. I'm giving you the light.
By the way,
so tell people.
One other, make sure you look at it. David Ward has just put in a last minute comment, so that you'll have to talk about that after this, real quick.
Okay. Yes, but first, I'm going to give you the spotlight to talk about the exciting debut tomorrow.
Yes. Hello, everyone. So tomorrow at 7:00 Central Daylight Time. So you can do math. I trust you. I believe in all of you. I am debuting a new show. It is The Basement. So we do a lot of dungeon get-togethers, a lot of studying, a lot of hanging out, and we realized that we talk about movies kind of a lot. And we have said to ourselves many a time, why don't we just like let other people come and talk about movies with us and learn new things about movies and about us. So there is an honorary member of the dungeon whose name is Trevor. He is my awesome co-host. And one of the things that we're going to be doing with The Basement, since I do not have the intellectual property of the dungeon. Oh, you found it. We're going to be hanging out in the basement, just like for people that recognize that aesthetic. Back when you were a kid watching VHSs on that cathode ray tube TV in the basement with that wood paneling, and everyone had their own neon light. I'm positive of that. So we're going to be having a lot of guests, and I've already confirmed that the two cats will be there. Dan Murrell will be there, but exclusive, I will be tweeting this out just after the show is over, but an exclusive that I can announce is that we also have two other confirmed guests. We have Tom Dagnino, Bobby Gucci himself will be on the show. We're going to make sure we talk about specifically only Stallone things with him. So if you are there for that, be there for that. We also have a special surprise guest whose name is Adam Witt, because I don't know how special surprise guests work. So if you are a big fan of the fan favorite Adam Witt, which I very much am, you're going to want to come and check out him on the show. Now, we don't necessarily currently have like a schedule or structure to when the guests are coming on. So this is not a tactic to get you to watch the whole thing. It's mostly just due to the fact that this is a very chill atmosphere. We are not heavily structured. We just want everyone to have a good time. I can also tease that in future episodes, not for the premiere, there will be baking things. So for people that have asked where are the baking things, they're going to be done down in the basement because everyone has a full kitchen in their basement. Yeah. Yeah. So we will be addressing some news of the week, things that really were not touched on here. So we're always making sure that we are cultivating things that you're not going to just get regurgitated stuff like my thoughts or Trevor's thoughts or any of the guests that are on that we've already talked about here today. So we're definitely going to be highlighting our thoughts on the most recent episode of Loki, and we will be talking spoilers, and we'll make sure that we are very apparent, like just obvious about the fact that it's spoilers, but please don't tune into that if you haven't seen it. And also our thoughts on Black Widow. So we would love to see any of you there that can be there. And yeah, more details to follow. Please stay tuned for all of the tweets and like, share, and subscribe.
Yay. All right. The Basement tomorrow. Get ready. It's going to be fun. You can check out Mara at that Mara. You can check out my Twitter feed for links and everything leading up to the show tomorrow. It's going to be a good time. It's a lot of fun. Trevor's really, he gives me hope for the future.
He really does.
So yeah, he does. But thank you everybody for watching and tuning into this show. We will be back next week with another live show with all of the news that's not even really fit to print, just that I want to talk about. Who knows? Maybe Stephen Dorff will say something else, so we'll have a whole other show. Mara, thank you as always for wrangling comments and everything wonderful that you do on and off the show.
Get that last one though?
Oh, I did not. Yes, sorry. Let me get this last one here. See what she keeps me on track. That's what she does.
Well, here, David Ward had said, "I'm old too, Dan. 44, as Brits tend to abbreviate too much." Us Brits, I believe, is what was meant by that. But yeah.
Well, just keep on abbreviating. I'll catch on someday. We'll learn. Thank you everybody for watching. Thank you to everyone who sent in a Streamlab. Thank you to everyone who is just hanging around. Please be sure, if you like the show, to hit that like button, to share, to subscribe. I know it's cliche, but we do it because it's good. So squish that subscribe button. Thank you everybody. We'll be back on Monday with an episode of Charts. We're going to talk about Black Widow, and then we start a whole new week. All My Movies is still coming out weekly through July, so there will be a new episode of All My Movies next week. Reviews, you name it. We've got some movies that I think Space Jam hits theaters next week. I don't know if I'm going to get an advanced screener of that one. Warner's is a little bit of a tough nut to crack for me, but I will have a review of Space Jam at some point. Lots of great stuff. Thank you, Mara. Thank you, viewers. Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.